Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Frank Quiniguez. I am the ambassador of reading, and today's topic, oh my goodness, it's one of my favorite topics. It's about reading, the love of reading. And that's what got the whole thing started. It's about reading. And let me start it off with a short story. I was once in a seminar someplace, I don't remember, and they told the story about a lion, the father lion with the baby lion, and they're walking in the jungle, and all of a sudden the father lion stops and looks over to his kid and he says, "Son, be careful where you walk and how you walk." And then the son lion turns around and looks at his father and says, "No, father, you watch where you're going because I'm following you." Man, when I first heard the story, I had to stop, and I'm thinking, wow, that's intense. Our kids are following us. They're watching everything we're doing. They're depending on us to go on the right path, to take the right steps, because if we don't, they're going to be following right behind us. Which reminds me, and I love stories, as you probably know already, it reminds me of a story of my son Nicholas and I when I lived in a one-bedroom apartment. Now we live in a beautiful home, you can say, the home of our dreams. Why the home of our dreams? Because my wife and I designed it, and we put everything where we wanted it to be, and they built it for us just the way we wanted it. However, back then when we were living in the one-bedroom apartment, they belonged to my in-laws. So we came out into the yard, and I noticed that my son followed me, and he's hanging out with me, and he's not saying anything. He's just looking at me. And I leaned against the wall, and I folded my arms, and I leaned against the wall, and with the side of my eye, I noticed that he leaned against the wall, and he folded his arms, and I'm like, whoa, check this kid out. He's doing what I'm doing. So I got on my knees and I folded and I pretended I was thinking, and he got on his knees and he folded his arm and he pretended he was thinking, and I said, oh my gosh, I better be aware of what I'm doing, because my kids are gonna follow on my footsteps. They're gonna do what I do. And I became more aware of what I would do and how I would be around my kids. Now, I'm not perfect, like I said in my other videos. We all have our challenges. However, I did start being careful with the way I was, the way I talked to them, with the way I talked to my wife. Why? Because they're watching, and they were learning, and they were following. And I remember, why am I doing the topic on reading? Is because there were many comments that asked me, hey, Frank, how can I get my kids to start reading? How can I get them to fall in love with reading? And it is a challenge nowadays, because we have the distraction of the TV, we have the distraction of the computers, we have the distraction of the phones. I've seen little kids as young as 1.5, maybe 1 year old, and their little finger already knows how to do and what to do. They can get in and get out, and it's a big takeaway from the reading. People nowadays, they either want to watch it on TV, on the computer, or on the phone, but they don't want to invest the time in reading. So let me tell you what we did with our kids. Be careful not to use it as a punishment. Many parents say, get into your room and read for 30 minutes. Now they're connecting reading to punishment. Who's going to want to punish themselves? Nobody's going to want to read. It's a punishment. So whenever you tell your kid, time out, get in your room, maybe you want to say, get in your room and think about what you did. Think about why you're in the room by yourself doing nothing, especially not reading. Take away the books. Don't let them read, because then if you get them in there and you tell them time out, you're punished for 30 minutes, and read, they're going to connect it. You don't want to do that. So let me tell you what I did with my kids. My wife and I, we have 3 kids. Well, they're adults now. My oldest is 27. My other one's 26. And the little one is 19. But when they were little, my wife and I were both teachers. We would play around with this. And we would play around in a good way, knowing that we wanted to instill reading and the power of reading into our kids' brains. So we would tell them, we live in the city of Whittier here in California, and we would go to the uptown Whittier to this bookstore called the Little Old Bookstore, and we would talk about it. Hey, let's go to the Little Old Bookstore. And our kids would ask us, can we go? And we would say, well, we don't know. Are you going to behave? And they were like, yeah, we promise we're going to behave. We're going to do good. Okay, we're going to go, and you can choose one book, and only one book. All right, and they would see what I would do. I would get a pile of books, and I would sit on the floor, and I would review my books, and occasionally I would get up to see where they were at, and they were with a pile of books and reviewing and see what they wanted. And at the end of the review, it was so awesome to watch, because they would want to negotiate. Dad, I really want to take this one, but I also want this one. Can I have it? And my wife and I would look at each other. Well, we did say one. You have to choose one. Please let us have two. Well, why do you want two? And then they would give us a summary. They would give us a summary of each book. This one talks about this one, and this one talks about this. And we would say, okay, we'll let you take two for this time. And we would tell them, put away the rest. And after you finish reading those, we can come back another time. And the little old bookstore became our store. And as they got older, they fell in love with reading. Now he's 27, 26, and 19, and they buy books on their own. And, you know, occasionally they buy books for me and they go, hey, Dad, check it out. Or, Dad, have you read this book? And it's so awesome. We can change, we can alter the future of our children. We can alter our future by reading. At one time, I know that I mentioned it in one of my videos, my past videos about the power of reading. There was a time way back then that reading was only meant for the rich. Why for the rich? Because one book would have the price of what an average person would make in a whole year. And if you wanted a book, you had to put it in order. And you couldn't just say, I want this book. You would have to put a down payment, I'm pretty sure maybe 50%. Imagine the salary of an average person for a whole year for a book. Of course, not everybody was reading. Only certain people were reading. Only the rich were reading. Nowadays, it's for anyone who desires to read. Anyone that wants to better themselves. We can alter the future of our children. We can alter our future by reading. Now, what got me my freedom, I was able to retire along with my wife at the age of 40. And what got me to retire was reading. I read a whole bunch of books on finances, on paying off a home. I should bring all my books. I have hundreds of books that I read that it paid off awesomely. Why? Because my wife, both and I teachers, we were able to retire our position as teachers at the age of 40. Now, we did continue to be substitutes because we were too young. So we continued, and soon we're gonna, well, she's already done for retirement. I'm soon to retire too. So reading is for those that desire to have a better life. Reading is no longer for the rich. Reading is for those that are looking to have a better life for themselves, a better life for their family. You want to change the way you are, you want to change the way you think, you want to change the way you live, reading got it. And it's not that fast reading where you get the summary and you do it. No, it's getting that book on finances, getting that book on child development. You want to have a better relationship with your kids. You want to see how kids work. I love that topic. Every time I had to read on children for the university, because I am a teacher, I would grab that book from beginning to end. I wanted to know everything, how the child's brain develops, when do they walk, when do they talk, fine motor skills, gross motor skills. I wanted to know everything. Reading gives you an advantage. Reading has always given an advantage. And nowadays it's for anybody who wants to better themselves. Anybody can walk into a store, buy a book. Books nowadays are so economical, anyone can buy it. If you're not reading, it's because you don't want to. So we're going to leave it at that. I mean, I shared a few stories as why the love for reading, why I got started with all this movement for the love of reading. There have been a few people that have asked me about my book. You can find it in my webpage, frankquiniguez.com, and you can purchase it if you like. That's what got it started. I wanted to share the power of reading. And there you have it. I'm going to leave it at that. Till next time, your friend, the ambassador of reading, Frank Quiniguez, wishing you well today and always, knowing that you will find and get what you are looking for.